Hi, my name is James Shepard, and today I want to talk to you about tier pricing or 3-tier pricing, 4-tier pricing, whatever you want to call it. And I want to talk to you about flat rate pricing. Okay, so first of all, let's make sure we kind of start by defining these two things. In a lot of my training videos, like in our 6-week jumpstart program, I use the example of like a hat shop. So imagine you had a shop like Lids where they just sell ball caps. So you get these hats in at all these different prices. One way you could sell those hats to customers is you could just have a flat rate and say, come into our store, all of our hats are $15, right? Well, then what would happen is some of the hats you'd make a lot of money on because you only paid, $2 for them. Other hats from the last, Super Bowl champions or whatever, well, then you might not make as much, right? You might make, you might even lose money. Maybe you paid, $16 for that particular hat, so you lost $1. But overall, on the average, you're going to make money. That's flat rate pricing, okay? The other option would be that you could put them on different shelves and say, here's our, clearance rack, all hats $5. Here's our, whatever you want to call the middle one that's, $20. And then here's our premium hats for $30, So you could do them different ways. That would be buckets, or tier pricing, right? So you're going to say, all the hats I paid only a couple bucks for, I'm going to put them on the clearance rack. All the hats that are kind of the normal hats, I'm going to put those in this medium one. And then all the hats I paid a lot for, I'm going to put those in the premium rack, so you put them like that. Now, obviously, the last way you could price them, which is like interchange plus pricing in our industry or cost plus, would be you take all the hats and mark them up 20%, right? So no matter what you paid for that, if you paid $10, you charge $12. If you paid, if you paid $20, you charge $24. You put it out there. You could definitely do that too, right? That would be like cost plus pricing. That makes a lot of sense as well. That would be like interchange plus or cost plus. But for this particular one, I want to talk to you about tier pricing and flat rate. Now, for those of you that don't understand this, in our industry, there is this underlying cost structure that everybody has. Every ISO, every processor, everybody has a cost structure called interchange. And so there's these interchange rates. There's over 400 different interchange rates. So based on the type of card somebody uses, the business where they use, the type of business they use the card, the way they process the card, is it online? Is it over the phone? Is it swiped to the terminal? All of those factors come into play. Does it have reward points, cash back, frequent flyer miles? All of these variables come into play, and there's like all these different rates. 1.7% plus 10 cents is for this card. And then this one is 0.05% and 22 cents. And then, like all these different rates. So, one of the things you have to look out for, of course, if you're trying to make a profitable book of business, is you got to make sure your fees are covering your cost. Okay. Now, in our industry, historically, one of the ways that was done, especially like 10 years ago, I would say 10 years ago was like 75% of the small businesses I walked into were on tier pricing. So tier pricing is where they would say you have qualified, mid-qualified, and non-qualified cards. So here's your qualified rate, here's your mid-qualified rate, here's your non-qualified rate. Now, that pricing structure was interesting. I actually did like it. I sold it for a little while, and it was interesting. The way that you would really sell that was, you go in and you talk about the lowest rate, so say, hey, our qualified rate, which is going to be most of your cards, is only going to be, 1.2% or something like that, and that's going to be all your regular check and debit cards. And then we're going to have, that's your qualified check card rate. And then here's your qualified, credit card rate or whatever. And so I would do like 4-tier pricing like that. And again, if you need more information about tier pricing, just go to our website, ccsalesper.com, jump into our 6-week jumpstart program, or even the Pro Club actually would have all of our training. And I've got some training on how to read a processing statement that goes through tier pricing and shows you what it looks like. But lately, the one that's been gaining a lot more momentum is flat rate pricing. Flat rate pricing was really popularized by Square. So Square came out and recognized that merchants were really tired of, they have this rate, this rate, this rate, so we'll just give them one flat rate of 2.75%. Now, in recent, months, in the last year or so, Square has significantly complicated its pricing structure. I think it's actually a big mistake on their part, but, I understand why they're doing it because they need to make money now. And so they did their losing strategy for a long time there of 2.75, and now they have all this complication in there, which merchants hate. But yeah, it's okay. They have the technology. They're trying to retain people that way. But the idea is flat rate pricing is actually still a really, really good idea. So one of the things that you can do that will really help people is when you go in and you see somebody is on tier pricing, normally what we try to do in kind of our methodology is, in our industry, we're trained, if we're going to sell on pricing, that means we're saving them money, right? So you come in, somebody's on tier pricing. I just saw a statement last week that had tier pricing and it was ridiculous. They were marking up the merchant. It was like a $50,000 a month merchant, and they were marking up the merchant about $900. They had like $900 a month in margin on this account. So, you take that tier pricing, you move them over to Interchange Plus. Interchange Plus is really transparent. You're normally not going to have these big price gouges in there. It's usually going to be less than 1% markup or at 1%, something like that. And so, maybe you do something like that, right? So you could do something like that, okay? Or the other option is you could tell them, you could make the pitch about simplification. Okay. So what you could do is you could say, look, I'm sure you've seen commercials for Square and these other companies that claim to have true flat rate pricing. Well, a lot of times if you look at their website, you see it's actually not true flat rate and they only work with certain business types. But what I'm going to do for you is this. I'm going to actually take a look at your statement and I'm going to go ahead and create a flat rate program for you at a specific rate so you always know what you're going to pay. It's always going to be X percentage of your total volume. If you can work with your processor or your ISO to do a true flat rate program, which means you have to eat all of the monthly fees up, right? So there's a $5 monthly fee here, $10 here. You have to eat those costs as part of come out of your residual, right? But you're going to give them a true flat rate where literally at the end of the month, they know exactly what they're going to pay, okay? Now, a couple things about that. It is actually tricky to pull that off. You have to talk with your ISO or your processor to get a true flat rate deal in there because they're going to have to exclude that merchant from their monthly fees and their annual fees and all that kind of stuff. I mean, they have to do that, right? So, that's important to make it true flat rate. But if you can get it, merchants really do like that. And a lot of times you can make the sale without even really cutting the price that much. Somebody that's got a pretty good price, you'd say, look, let me give you the pitch, right? So the pitch is basically this. Let's say I have somebody that's got, Interchange Plus and they've got a pretty good rate. So I would say, look, I'm looking at your statement here. You do have pretty good pricing, okay? But here, let me make this presentation to you and tell me what you think about this value proposition, okay? Right now, you are the one taking all the risk for the different types of cards that you run. In other words, you have some months, I'm sure you've noticed this, you have some months where you're paying, 2%. You have some months where you're paying 3.5%. You've got a lot of variation right now because there's different card types that are coming through. Some months you get more reward cards than others, right? So what I would like to do for you is this. What if I take on that risk? Now, of course, it costs a little bit of money because we got to make sure we have enough, margin in there to make it work, right? But instead of you going from 2 to 3.5%, what if I put you at 2.7%? So you're going to be at a flat 2.7%. You always know it's 2.7%. Basically, you never have to worry about credit card processing ever again. You never have to look at a proposal from somebody else ever again because you're at a flat rate. You're 2.7. You never have to wonder about it. It's always going to be the same thing. I have no monthly fees, no per item fees, nothing. It's just 2.7%. And again, that percentage is out of thin air, depend on the merchant type and all that. So that's a really good pitch. It's a way to maintain margin. But at the same time, while you're maintaining that margin, the pitch you're making to the merchant is, I'll take on the risk, because what that means is you tell them, say, hey, look, what that means is there's going to be months where I'm going to lose money, but there's, some months I'm going to make money. I'm going to take the risk of that over a period of time. Now, of course, in reality, they're already marked up a good bit. So you want to sell them so that, even in a month where they have, a lot of rewards cards, you're still going to make maybe 20 basis points, but you're going to make maybe 20 to 80 basis points depending on that spread that they go through. And that can be very powerful because, again, merchants love simplification. And if you need any proof of that, look at Square. That's their whole marketing proposition. That's what they do, right? And they were very successful getting merchants on board with that. So my advice to you today is this. I think tier pricing has really kind of run its course. It is interesting, and you could still, I still think there's some value in taking people from Interchange Plus back over to tier pricing, again, for simplification. But it's like, if you're going to do that, why not just jump over tier pricing and go straight to flat rate? Because now with tools like InstantQuoteTool.com, where we can easily with an algorithm predict, what the cost is going to be, there's really not a huge amount of risk to go ahead and just do the flat rate. People used to not want to do that because of the risk of like, well, what if we lose money? But if you use InstantQuoteTool.com, it's going to have all that in there. It's going to show you the cost. So I think it's time now where you can just skip over tier pricing and either do Interchange Plus for your larger merchants or flat rate for your smaller ones. And you'll find that with that simplicity and agreeing to take on the risk, you're going to get a lot more people to buy, and you're going to maintain your margins a little bit higher if you do it the right way. My name is James Shepard. Thanks for watching and listening.